Hey traders, Akil here. Welcome back to another episode of the Trading Coach Podcast. I'll tell you what, it's been a very busy Sunday, right? Sunday fun day. Very busy, yet very productive. Started off today with a very nice run this morning, making some good progress in my training. And then essentially I spent the rest of the day recording content, right? Working on a new training course. The other day we had a meeting with the team. We put a hard date on the release, so it's about time I get started and getting stuff done so I can meet that deadline. And if there's one thing I've learned about being productive, it's that if you want to be the most productive you can, you have to avoid burnout, right? If you just go 100 miles per hour, you're going to burn out pretty quickly. However, if you take pit stops, if you take breaks, you're more likely to be productive for longer periods of time, and you're more likely to get more stuff done. So something I've been doing during my breaks recently has been catching up on Breaking Bad, or rather, rewatching the show Breaking Bad. Now, if you haven't seen Breaking Bad, you're missing out, right? Why are you living without seeing that show? In my opinion, it is the greatest series of all time. In fact, I did a little internet poll the other day, and 56% of the participants agreed with me. And essentially, it reminded me of myself, right? I just got finished recording a video and I'm an athlete, so when I finish it and it comes out good and the music's blasting and I'm getting all pumped and I'm screaming, I'm like, yeah, another one done. I got 5 down, 20 to go. Woo, let's go, right? And going all crazy in the room. And it reminded me of one of Breaking Bad's characters, Walter White. And for you guys that haven't seen the show, I'll give you a quick rundown of it. But essentially, it's this kind of underachieving human being, right? This guy is this brilliant mind, this brilliant chemist. All of his friends have gone on to do better things than him. All of his friends are college professors. They're coming up with different findings. They're being awarded. One guy's like this multi-millionaire off of something, and this guy is teaching high school for like $40,000 a year, and he's getting bullied at his house. And he openly admits that he is someone that has basically lived life in fear, right? He's been afraid to ever go for it, and he's just settled, and he's living an average life. I guess, it's not a bad life necessarily, but he's just average. He's not doing any of the cool things that he sees his friends doing. And he's kind of accepted that, and he's going through the motion. And what happens is his wife is pregnant. They're having their second kid. And he gets diagnosed with cancer, and at the really, really bad stage of cancer. And basically they're telling him, hey, you have like a couple months to live. And this is the biggest wake-up call to him, right? He has a couple months to live. He hasn't provided for his family in the way that he wanted to. And all of a sudden, he's faced with this urgency. He wants to do something that, so when he leaves this planet, his family will be taken care of. So essentially, he's a chemist. He starts, making drugs and gets into the drug game. But the point is, right, they asked him a little bit, or he goes into this dialogue about his situation. And he talks about how cancer really woke him up. Again, he's been living life afraid, fearful, and he's realized now that the only thing to fear is really fear, and there's not much beyond that. And when he's diagnosed with this life-threatening disease, he just doesn't care anymore, right? He's no longer fearful of the everyday things that happen in this world because, his time is done. He's gone in a couple months, so he's living life freely, and he loves it. He's a brand new man. He's doing stuff he never thought he would do. He's excited. He's happy. And he's seeing another side of life. And he never would have taken this action if it weren't for that urgency. And the problem in real life is, I guess, people that are afraid to jump out of that comfort zone, right? We always talk about a comfort zone. 80 to 90% of people are within this bubble of comfort where you're living a mediocre life. It's safe, it's comfortable. And again, there's nothing wrong if that's what you want to do. But if you're someone that has desires to get the most out of life, in my opinion, to achieve your dreams, to have the life that you see on TV and stuff like that, you have to venture outside that comfort zone. But the problem is, it's a very scary place, right? Within that comfort zone is something called certainty, right? You have a safe job, you have a safe paycheck, you have a safe situation, right? As human beings, safety is the number one thing that we crave. So it's very, very hard to leave a safe position for a threatening position, right? The unknown outside that comfort zone is like the deep, dark jungle. You don't know what can happen. Yes, you can have massive riches and the dream life, but there's also the chance of failure, and that can end really bad. And the question is, what is going to influence you more, right? We all know that as humans, we basically make all of our decisions and all of our actions off of two things, right? Either pursuing pleasure or avoiding pain. And you have to make a choice when you leave that comfort zone, right? Are you going to value pursuing pleasure more than avoiding pain? Or are you going to value avoiding pain more than pursuing pleasure? And it made me think about this because I was recording a podcast this morning. I actually just put it out, episode 209, where I was responding to a trader who asked me a few good questions. And one of them was, how did I stay motivated when I took the leap into trading? And another one was like, what do I regret and all that stuff? And, I said that I didn't really have any regrets. But if I did have to choose a regret, it would be not getting educated sooner. Because I saw a drastic change in my trading and my trajectory once I started getting educated. And, if I had to change one thing, it would be get on that path to success sooner than later. I would have saved a lot of time. I would have saved a lot of money. But I also mentioned that I believe everything happens for a reason. And maybe if I would have gotten coaching earlier, maybe I wasn't ready. Maybe I still would have failed. Maybe I wouldn't have taken it seriously because I didn't have that urgency, right? Understand that after I made the move from the stock market, stock investing, to the Forex market, I struggled for about a year and a half, right? My mindset or what's always worked for me in life has been working as hard as I can. And if you just keep grinding and working hard, eventually you become successful. It's kind of like your basic man brain, right? If something doesn't work, just keep hitting it with a hammer until it does work, right? That's essentially, how my mindset worked. And it worked in almost every aspect of life, right? You just wear people down or wear things down with a tireless work ethic. But in trading, it wasn't really working so much, or at least it wasn't working to the point where I started to see any gains. I was grinding and studying and doing all the stuff I was supposed to do, but I didn't see myself getting any better. And in hindsight, it's because I was working really, really hard, but I wasn't working hard on the right thing. So I was in this spiral of probably never becoming successful. But I think within that year, I learned a lot about myself. I learned that the hard work, working harder, doesn't always put you where you want to be. And it was a big reality check to my ego in my bank account to blow a lot of money in the market and waste a lot of time in the market to the point where I was essentially at desperation. I was desperate to succeed. And that's what kind of, knowing myself, that's what kind of prompted me to do the thing where I decided to quit my jobs and focus full time on trading and give myself no outlet. And by doing that, I know for some of you guys, it's like, oh, Akil, that seems stupid. That seems dumb. You just did a podcast talking to a trader, giving him some advice to get a part-time job. Well, I did that on purpose. And it's because I know myself and how I've always been. I am a person that works best under pressure, right? I perform the best under pressure. Not everyone is built that way. I don't know if it's genetic or something that is learned, but I perform the best when I'm under pressure. And it's probably because I can't make any excuses. I am a procrastinator. I like to procrastinate. I don't like to do stuff that I don't want to do until it absolutely needs to be done. That's just the way I was. I was the kid that did his homework in high school, the period before it was due, or sometimes the period of. That was just me. So what I did was I was already desperate for success from failing and losing money for so long, but I also created this position where I had no choice but to fully focus and go 100% in, right? Immerse myself fully into learning how to trade. I quit my job. I cut off my safety net of the 3 jobs and the $30,000 and all of that stuff. And I basically jumped out that comfort zone. I dove out, right? And said, you got 2 options, Kill. You got 2 options, buddy. Either you are going to achieve success or you're going to fail. And I can tell you what, man, I don't fail. And I don't mean that in a cocky sense, but I don't fail. Like, it's not in my vocabulary. It's not I am not programmed to fail. I am programmed to succeed, right? And but I need the right push to do so. I needed the initial push out of that comfort zone. That's the thing. And that's the hardest part. I think a lot of people out there are built to do the same thing. A lot of you guys listening to this podcast, you are built to succeed, but it's just so hard to make that initial jump. Right, a swimming pool reference is always the greatest example for me. Right, I don't like swimming pools when they're cold. I don't like cold water. Like, let's take a beach for example. Right, I don't like the cold water. Probably the Caribbean in me, but I don't like the cold water. So when I go to the beach, right, you walk onto the sand and the water, the tide comes out and it splashes you. You're like, oh, a little cold there, ooh, and you scurry out, and then you walk in, you kind of get the ankles wet, and you're like, you scurry out, right? And you do that long enough, what are you doing? You're wasting time. You're wasting time at the beach. Before you know it, it's an hour later and you still haven't gotten into water yet, right? In life, it's a lot different. In life, an hour is a year is 2 years, right? So the best thing to do in that situation is you just close your eyes, you just run, and you just jump in, right? And once you're in the air, guess what you can't do? You can't go back. You've already committed. And now you've got to deal with the consequences. And what typically happens is you dive into the water, you have that initial shock where it's cold and it's painful, and then it's all good. And you start having fun. And I think jumping out that comfort zone is the same thing. And there's an initial shock where it's like, oh! But then you realize, like, man, this ain't that bad. You kind of get used to that position. And putting that hard date on the training course and the workshop that we have coming out gave me urgency because I've been procrastinating, right? It's the summertime, right? I work very, very hard. My busy part of the year is essentially from mid-August to mid-May. So in the summertime, I try to spend as much time with my family, get away from the markets, get away from education. And that's what I've been doing. But there comes a time where you have to get work done. And when we set that date and as we get closer and closer, I realized, like, hey, these videos, this training isn't going to get done on its own. And I accepted that sense of urgency, and I used it to record about 5-6 videos already today. And I just feel like I'm at my best when there's that urgency. I felt like Walter White. I had a scowl on my face, and I'm sitting there feeling like a badass. So for me, it's getting this content done. I've already been through it where I've jumped out the comfort bubble and put myself outside, right? The 10% outside where your dreams and your desires lay. I encourage you guys to do the same thing. Create that sense of urgency. I'm not saying quit your jobs. Please don't do that. And if you do, don't tell anyone that Akil told you to do it. But create that sense of urgency. Give yourself a hard deadline to do something. Hold yourself accountable, right? Tell your boyfriend, your girlfriend, your wife, your husband, your best friend, your parents. Tell them, make it a public goal. Tell them, I am going to do this by this date. And if I don't, give me a consequence. Make it urgent. That's going to allow you to get stuff done. And I think you'll be surprised that once you get started, the path to success isn't as scary as what you thought.